Compute. Okay. Hello again. I'm Haley Greenwell, Youth and Special Populations Director, and we are going to be reviewing the Youth Navigation RFP request for proposals. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Okay. I first want to start with, I'm going to go into some slides, but we do on our website, if you go to our website, CAFTH.org, you can click what we do and go down to the 2026 Youth Navigation RFP. And this is the hub of all the information that we're talking about today, including the timeline, the RFP itself, the scoring tool, and then the slides that we'll be reviewing today. So that's there for anybody who wants it. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and get started. Today we're going to be talking about what is the RFP, what are the goals for navigation, what are the minimum requirements for agencies that are interested in applying, additional guidance and requirements. We'll talk about the YHDP principles and timeline, and then we'll get into the application a little bit. Um, okay, so the request for proposals or the RFP is for one agency in the Memphis-Shelby County area to conduct all navigation programming for our community. We know that navigation is intended to offer immediate assistance to unaccompanied or pregnant and parenting youth ages 18 to 24 experiencing housing instability or homelessness. And it's supposed to offer them a front door approach, low barrier approach to housing services. And if they do need to be entered into housing programs, they will enter the coordinated entry system through the continuum of care, which is what we call our Memphis-Shelby County Homeless Network. So the program itself is supposed to offer an individualized safety and service plan, mobile case management, and connections to community services in order to reduce youth homelessness and prevent individuals from entering the homeless service system. And if they are in the homeless service system, to help them rapidly exit homelessness into safe permanent housing. We have several agencies here who are already operating YHDP navigation programs, so you all know this best. What some of our goals for navigation are to improve identification of youth who are homeless or at risk of homelessness, cross-system collaboration and partnership. That's something that I'd say is a big grow for our current structure of navigation. It's hard because we are spread out across 5 agencies. And so we're hoping with this one agency that they will be easier to connect agencies such as like Memphis-Shelby County Schools and DCS with our agency that does the youth navigation programming. We're also hoping to ease navigation services for youth and referring partners. I already mentioned coordinated entry and expand youth and young adult confidence in accessing homeless resources and in their knowledge of those. We want to obviously decrease the number of youth that are turned away for services. Also, I am seeing several of you and I'm flipping through you, but to make sure I'm looking at everybody. But if you have questions along the way, feel free to stop me. And also, you can type any questions in the chat. Okay, so youth collaboration. This is important. If you're one of our COC agencies, then you know that this is something that we ask in monitoring. We're hoping that this project proposal will continue to build in youth collaboration. When this program was first enacted in 2022, the YAB, the Youth Action Board or Youth Advisory Board was a big part of promoting and organizing the structure of this program. And so we want to see that continue. The navigation team that will be awarded this grant will be expected to work closely with the YAB to evaluate the current homeless response system and work on areas of improvement. Okay, so minimum requirements. In order for an agency to be considered as, hold on, sorry, I thought I saw someone in the waiting room. Yes, Shalonda. Okay, apologies. Okay, so if an agency is to be considered, they have to meet these minimum requirements, including incorporating all YHDP principles outlined in the community plan. That is linked on our website, and it's this thing right here. Um, to participate in the coordinated entry system, be an active member of our homeless consortium, participate in HMIS, and have been in existence for more than a year and have documented experience with grant management and public funds. These are a bunch of links that are great resources, and they're also throughout the application. So I'm not going to touch too much on this. This is the coordinated plan that I just showed you all. The previous NOFO, or actually, well, this is the one for this upcoming year, and then the NOFA, as well as our regulations. Okay, so the principles of YHDP, we know that we are looking for agencies that will incorporate these principles of special populations, equity, positive youth development, and trauma-informed care, housing first, social and community integration, family engagement, youth choice, individualized and client-driven support, and coordinated entry. Okay, the timeline. The application was released technically on the 8th. It was on our website, but we shared it out on the 9th with you all in the community. Um, the information session is happening right now. Thank you for attending. And then the next phase is applications are due to us at CAFTH on July 13th. And we will review those with the review committee on the 16th. In between that time, the YAB will conduct brief interviews, like 15-minute interviews with the agencies, asking particularly about youth involvement in the planning and administration of the navigation programming. And then, like I said, the review committee will meet on the 16th, and on the 20th, this should say agency, the funded agency, because there's only going to be one, will be notified of their award.
Haley, can I say one thing about that?
Yes.
If you go back, it's not in the timeline, but it is on the application instruction section that on Monday, July 13th, it is due by 5 p.m.
Yes, we are going to hit on that again, Steph, but thanks for saying that.
Great, thanks.
5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And after that agency has been notified of their award, they'll need to complete an application to us. You'll get more details about what that will look like after once we notify you that you were the agency awarded, and then we'll enter into a grant agreement in early fall, late summer. We have to make sure we do this before the next funding cycle. And so we're trying to have everything submitted by August of 2026. And then the timeline of operation will be October 1st to September 30th, 2027. So it starts October 1st of this year. It's a 1-year grant that is applied for by us at Community Alliance for the Homeless through the annual COC YHTP competition process. Um, and yeah, this is where we highlight that it needs to be submitted to us by 5 p.m. If you're just joining us, thank you so much, and apologies if you came in person. Um, so we're just talking about the application components. There are some attachments that you need to include. I'll go over those in a little bit, but this does need to be in one PDF. We do not want to see several PDFs, so please make sure you combine all of your documents into one document and then submit that to yhdp@cafth.org with this title. All this is on our website and in the application. YHDP Navigation Project application submitted to us by Monday, July 13th at 5 p.m. Any questions about the timeline or anything I've shared so far? Okay, great. Okay, so now we're getting into the application itself. So the first section, I actually wanted to show my screen. I showed you all that on our website. This is our website. You go to what we do, you find the RFP. Um, if you click on the RFP itself, you'll see it'll open a window, but what you need to do in order to make it fillable is download it. And once you download it, you'll notice that it's fillable and you can type into the application. If you have any questions about that or issues, let me know, but we tried to make that easy for you all. So I'm going to get into the application now. The first part is just information about your agency. So we're not really going to go into that. And we're going to start on page 16 of the application. So going back to my slides, that is section 2. But section 2 is broken up into two different parts. It's section 2A and section 2B. Um, you only need to do one of these, depending on if you're a current subrecipient of CAFTH for this navigation programming. If you are someone like communities and schools or Hospitality Hub and you're already running navigation programming, then you would only complete section B. Section A is for new programs, so programs that don't currently have housing programs, or excuse me, navigation programming. Um, so section A, we're going to ask you to provide your examples and experience of how your agency addresses housing and supportive services needs for youth and young adults, and your experience in implementing relevant program systems and services, as there will be, nuances and development that happens throughout. Apologies, y'all. I'm trying to go back. This is asked of both. We would like to know, in your own words, why you believe that your agency is the most appropriate to host YHDP navigation programming for the community, and what specific evidence you have to support that your agency has the capacity and the connections to support this type of programming. Section B, again, is for the agencies that are currently receiving YHDP navigation funding. We're going to be asking you to reflect on your operation of navigation, asking about your accomplishments and how you plan to expand on those, and then asking about the challenges that your program has encountered and how you plan to mitigate those challenges and ensure success in your program. We're also going to ask you about how participant and community feedback has influenced your approach over the course of your programming. And then, just like the um, last for new agencies, we're asking why you believe your agency is the most appropriate to host YHDP navigation programming. I can go specifically into the questions of the RFP in just a bit, but this PowerPoint, I am just giving an overview of the RFP. So I'm going to move on to section 3 unless anyone has questions. Okay, so section 3 covers the scope of work. We're essentially asking, what is your plan for conducting outreach and identifying youth for this program? How will you receive referrals from the community, including external agencies? Um, how will you address the identified housing and supportive service needs of the participants in the program? What project outcomes do you anticipate? And this is sort of throughout the RFP, you'll see a lot of this coordinating with other organizations. We also are going to ask you about the structure of your YHTP navigation programming, about how many navigators you plan to employ. Will they be part-time or full-time? How many will you have? Well, I think I already said that. But what about the supervisor? Is the supervisor full-time or are they part-time? If they're a part-time supervisor, how do you plan to ensure that the program receives the appropriate support? that it needs. Here at Community Alliance for the Homeless, we are seeking, well, we're not a part of the RFP necessary or the review committee necessarily, but we are encouraging agencies to consider the supervisory structure just because we know that's been a grow or an area of growth for us this year is having one dedicated person that would be the point of contact for all things uh, navigation in our community. And then lastly, this is a hard question to answer, but how do you anticipate managing caseloads and referrals, given that the number of youth requesting and receiving services will fluctuate throughout the grant cycle? So, we have a minimum number of youth that we plan to be served, but how do you anticipate managing as that varies? We next ask about the budget. I didn't realize we were already there. So the budget, it's I'll go through it, but it's all of these line items and it's just asking approximately how much money do you have budgeted for that. The HMIS budget is similar, asking specifically about these line items within HMIS. And there are some required documents. Again, remember that we're just doing one PDF, so these can be attached to the end of your application, your screenshot verification of your Live Give Mid-South profile, your match, which is really important. I should have mentioned that. That's throughout our RFP. It's a 25% match. Thanks for the nod, Steph. So that does need to be something that your agency can commit to. We're also looking for any collaboration agreements and letters of support from the community. Certification that all corporate filings have been received by the state. The drug-free workplace affidavit. The org chart about how do you plan to propose the staffing. We know that your organization doesn't currently look like it will if you were to receive this funding, but if you were, what would that org chart look like? Your certificate of insurance, your 501c3 letter, and any MOUs that support your application. Okay, so I also was planning on if you were interested and wanted to stay on, if there were no questions, I was just going to go through the actual questions of the application, although we pretty much went over the overview. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. This is good information. Thank you, Haley. You mentioned that there's a section to apply if you are existing or not already existing, already doing a program. Just want to make sure I'm completing the right section. Is this if we've applied for a grant or have not applied for a grant? And I want to preface that with we just started in this space in March where we're doing community outreach and we've come across youth who are like one example, the parent is incarcerated and this person who's 19 has partial custody of their siblings. And so we're navigating with them with their essential documents and coming across barriers. So we've been doing this since March, and we probably served about maybe 30 residents in the community. So, but we've not applied for any grants or funding. Where would we fit in which section?
Yes, I didn't catch your name. I'm sorry.
Vanessa Sweet.
Awesome. Vanessa, thank you for your question. That's a great question. So it's one application for the whole community, whether you've applied before or not. And so I'm going to share my screen again. When you're on our website and you go to what we do and you click RFP, you'll find the application, which again, I've shared. I encourage you to download it so it can be fillable. I've already done that, so we're going over here. The beginning is just all the information that you all need to know that we've already shared, the timeline, all that jazz. But to go back to Vanessa's question, what part is relevant for new applicants? Section 1 is applicable to everybody. Section 2 is the only one that's a little bit tricky. There's two parts of section 2. There's A and there's B. A is for new applicants. So that would be you all, Vanessa. You don't currently operate off of YHDP Navigation funding. And so you would complete section 2A. The first question should raise a red flag for you because you'll see it again. So if you have the same question twice, stop and ask yourself, am I completing the right part? So for new applicants, again, section A. If you're already a subrecipient, go to section B, which is right here. And again, it's asking the same first question of section A, asking about the organization and management structure of the applicant agency. This is for current navigation agencies. I think they know who they are. Okay, good question. Any other questions? Are we interested in going through the applications question by question?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. Okay. So, like I said, it starts on page 14 with the information about where to submit it, my information, Stephanie's information. This is just the organizational info. And then we get into the sections. Like I said, this is for new applicants. We're going to ask the same question of both the organization and management structure of your agency, the experience of the agency in effectively utilizing federal funds and performing the proposed activities. We ask for this is again for new agencies if they have any unresolved monitoring or audit findings from any HUD grants, and if so, if they could provide a detailed description of the findings and the resolutions for that. We also ask for concrete examples of the agency's experience in working with this population and working with youth and young adults, specifically around housing and supportive services, as well as just developing and implementing programs. This program has shifted a lot in the 4 years it's existed, and so we're looking for agencies that have experience in developing programs and being malleable with their design of programs. Then this question is asked of both new and existing applicants. It's just why is your agency the most appropriate to receive this funding? I checked this out at home and it worked, but like once you start typing, even if you go over the box, the words should just get smaller. So it should all fit within the box, but let me know if it doesn't. This is section 2B. So if you did 2A, then you would not do 2B. 2B is just for our 5 navigation agencies currently. The organization and management structure, like I said in the presentation, what accomplishments has the program achieved and how do they plan to expand upon those? What challenges or barriers has the program encountered and how do they plan to mitigate those? And then we ask about participant and community feedback and how that's influenced the programmatic approach. This question asks, how will continued funding help you deepen impact rather than just maintain current activities? And this is just information for us. What additional support or resources would enhance your effectiveness moving forward, just so we can better prepare to support the agency that will be receiving this grant. Like I said, this is asked of the new and existing applicants. Why is your agency the one agency that you believe should receive this funding for the community? And then, Vanessa, back to your question. I tried to make it explicit in here that new and current navigation agencies must answer the rest. So Section 3 is about the design of the project. So we're specifically asking about outreach, referrals, how to identify housing and supportive needs, and how to address those needs. Do you have metrics for what you plan to achieve within the grant period? And how do you plan to coordinate with other organizations? Again, this question is sort of asked throughout. So if you just want to briefly touch on it here, because this is a behemoth of a question. It's basically describing the proposed scope of the project. There will be other questions asking about coordination. Okay. Just trying to make sure no one, yeah, Shalonda's back in the waiting room. Okay. We ask about eligibility for applicants for youth that would go to the program. What makes them eligible or ineligible? Hint, hint, this information can be found in our YHDP principles. So this is a question asking if you're familiar with the program and what makes a client eligible or a participant eligible. In this section, we ask about the proposed project's plan to implement diversion practices and a low barrier approach to providing services. Specifically, like how will you work around all these other issues that may come up in a youth's life, like mental health, addiction, lease violations, or even resistance to services? How could you address those issues as they could potentially jeopardize the youth's housing? And then how will you cultivate landlord relationships, help find participants housing, and ensure that you're utilizing the housing options within the consortium and coalition? Sorry, I'm just checking to see if there's any questions. Feel free to stop me. Okay, so we're in section 3B now. Again, this is for everybody. With YHD funds, what services do you plan to provide to engage the family and youth in housing problem solving approach, diversion, or rapid exit? You can check all that apply here. And if you have other, you can explain that in this section here. The next question is asking about the specific populations that you will be serving. Again, you can check all that apply. And if you select other, you can explain here. We ask if this project will offer any specialized services for youth living with HIV or AIDS. This question does not determine, I don't believe it's tied to any points necessarily, but we are interested in, what is your organization's ability to serve these clients or thoughts around serving clients in this population. The next question we ask about, this is the part where I'm asking about the structure of the programming. So how many navigators do you plan to employ? Will they be full-time or part-time? Will you have a full-time supervisor? If not, how will the program receive that consistent support and the community knows they can call on this one agency? How do you anticipate managing caseloads and referrals, given that you may receive more referrals than you anticipated serving? For context, our current navigation programming, we have 5 agencies and they plan to serve at least 50 youth per year, but we have some agencies that have already met that metric or they're quickly approaching it. And so just knowing that the need may be larger than what you're expected to serve, and how do you plan to, serve youth or at least offer resources without turning away youth? How do you plan to increase the identification of youth who are homeless? And how do you plan to increase awareness of the resources that exist within our community around youth homelessness? We ask about how the agency will create a safe, inclusive, and affirming space for all youth. Will you be using a trauma-informed approach? Will you be incorporating those positive youth development principles? What will you be doing? Um, the next question is similar to the one where we asked about how will you serve with managing caseloads with differentiating numbers and that fluctuation. This one is asking, how do you plan to prioritize and allocate supportive service funding to meet the diverse needs of youth while ensuring that you have resources sustained throughout the full grant cycle? Um, how will you balance those immediate needs of the clients with long-term funding sustainability? Um, this program ultimately, the agency that receives this funding will be able to determine how their program is structured. But the way it is now, we have very limited funding for supportive services, but we have a great need for supportive services. So this is asking just how will you be thoughtful in trying as hard as you can to sustain the funding throughout the period? We know that we don't have magic wands and we can't meet all the needs of our youth, unfortunately, with limited funding, but we want to know your approach in this. What is your thought process in sustainability as far as funding? The next question is asking, how will you continue to involve the Youth Action Board and other youth leaders in the development and implementation of the project? The reason we have continue here is because like I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, the Youth Action Board or advisory board was instrumental in planning this navigation programming and applying for these funds and then, implementing the programming at all of our agencies. So when we say continue, we're just asking, what does that collaboration with our Youth Action Board look like or other youth leaders? How will they be involved in this project? And then we ask about continuous quality improvement because we're always trying to grow and get better, right? So throughout the course of the grant, how will you both assess how you're doing and then also modify or improve areas that you've noticed need to be addressed? So do you have any thoughts in mind for continuous quality improvement? The next question is asking about youth's ability to choose providers or interventions that fit their needs. Um, some youth may not want to go to one particular agency. They might not want to go to one particular navigator. They might have specific needs that they want addressed, or they fit a population that, your agency may not have expertise in. How do you plan to um, allow youth the opportunity to choose those providers and interventions that best fit them?
Haley, there's a question for number
Oh,
9.
there's a question for number 9. Thank you.
Shalon, go ahead.
On number 9, on the downloadable version of it, when you click in it, it does not allow you to type at the top of the question, like yeah. And so when you type out the line, it just goes like a paragraph. It just goes straight across, and you can't see all the words. It's just one line. Is there a way to fix that, or is there a way for you guys to resend the downloadable version where we can actually take the paragraph, and because it doesn't allow you to wrap it
Yes,
to
and
wrap the question.
thanks, Shalonda. You're always finding ways we can be better. Uh,
I'm sorry.
no, don't be
I'm just
sorry. I'm being serious.
Don't be sorry. That's
Um,
okay.
great.
no, I didn't
All right.
notice that. Thanks for pointing it out. Yeah, I thought it would wrap, but it doesn't wrap like you said. So, I will both make sure that we update our website with one that wraps for this question, and we'll send it out to all the registrants.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you for that catch. Okay. The next question, this is really where we're getting into, I mentioned throughout the application, you'll see a lot about collaboration, but this question is specifically asking about how the agency will increase partnerships with youth-specific systems and providers to connect youth with this program. We know that there are many more youth in the community that are experiencing housing instability or homelessness than are being enrolled or served through our navigation programming. It's not for a lack of trying from our navigators, but there's just so many opportunities for services in this community, and it's hard to know where to go. So we're specifically asking, like, how will your agency make sure that you're working with these different entities like Memphis Shelby County Schools, DCS, juvenile court, in order to make sure that we're identifying youth and connecting them to services. This section, this is where like those MOUs or letters of support would be great to support this question. Number 12, we're asking if you currently have the ability to provide all necessary supportive services, including health, social services, employment programs to ensure youth do not return to homelessness. Now, we know that most of us are going to say no because we don't have every single service within our organizations, and that's okay. But if not, how will you formalize those community partnerships to ensure that youth are receiving those services, that they are connected to healthcare, that they are receiving wraparound supports that maybe extend past navigation or help with enrolling into employment programs or educational programming? And that's it for this is it for the narrative. So I consider the narrative section 3 and section 2. So section 2, sorry, I was trying to see what it was called. Agency experience and capacity. And then section 3 is about the project design. Section 4 is just about money. So if it was me writing this, I'd be like, okay, this is where the finance team comes in. This should also be, yes, you can write in this, telling us the amount and any narrative that you'd like to include here. You don't have to have necessarily allotted line items to each of these, although I will say that we have noticed that almost all of these are utilized by our current navigation agencies.
There's a question, Haley, about the budget.
Budget question. Yes, Shalonda.
It's me again. Sorry. Okay. This will be real quick. Two questions. On the budget, where are you putting the administration fees under this budget? I didn't know what category. And then on also the section that says case management, what services are allotted under that? I didn't see that in the manual.
You're asking good
Um,
questions.
do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead,
Uh,
Steph.
the admin is not budgeted this way. It's just a line item of 10% that you split with CAF. So CAF gets 5% of admin and the agency will get the other 5% of the admin. But you don't have to give a breakdown of the budget like this. That's why there isn't a budget associated with it.
Okay.
But there was a section in the RFP that detailed out the estimated amount of admin based on previous GIW. The new one hasn't come out yet. So once we have more information on that, then we can give a little bit more detail on the actual admin number and the supporters versus supporter services and HMIS.
And then, Steph, do you want to take a shot at that case management question?
Um,
Because I was just thinking that the case management, I mean, would most likely be handled with staff salaries. Um, but if there are maybe other needs for case management, you could budget those. I can't think of anything.
When I looked at the last one, it was under the budget for salary was under the assessment for service needs. So that's why I was like, what is case
Sure.
management supposed to be for?
In the regulations, that's one of the eligible supportive services line items. So just like in the regular COC grant, case management includes the cost of assessing, arranging, coordinating, and monitoring the delivery of individualized services to meet the needs of the program participants. That can include activities such as counseling, developing, securing, and coordinating services, using the centralized or coordinated entry system, obtaining federal, state, and local benefits, monitoring and evaluating program participant progress, providing information and referrals to other providers, providing ongoing risk assessments and safety planning with victims of domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, and developing an individualized housing and service plan, including planning a path to permanent housing stability. So
Stephanie,
those,
did you just read that line by line? I'm just
oh,
messing with
I,
you.
I just had that memorized, Shalonda. Hello. No. Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's in the right this is the supportive services that are eligible from the regulations, the COC regulations. Um,
One
those
thing,
don't change with the special activities. There's other special activities that fall into these categories. But you can put salaries or whatever in the categories as long as it's appropriate because they can go in case management or it can go in assessment of service needs.
Natalie, were you going to say anything?
Oh, I was just going to add, I believe question 7 above also was a narrative response around some of the supportive services that you all might be providing or proposing to provide throughout your program. So I encourage you all, especially if you are current non-recipients of YHDP navigation funds, encourage you all to closely look at those regulations for all of the eligible costs that can be spent through YHDP, as well as the YHDP Appendix A to kind of also use that information to answer question 7 as well, along with the budget.
Thank you,
I'm
Natalie.
gonna drop that link in for the supportive services eligible costs in the chat.
Perfect. I think we've got it somewhere in here, but this is a behemoth of a document. So, any other questions about the budget?
I will also say that there's a section in there that gives the actual amounts. All you have to do is take that amount and then put the supportive services into the line items that you want. So you can't ask for anything over that amount. I know it says here, what is the total amount of supportive services funding requested? We gave you that number above. So that's the amount that you can put in there. Don't put in like I don't know, $1 million worth of supportive services because we don't have $1 million worth. So just be mindful of that. It's in the section that breaks down the budget, Haley, on
Oh, okay.
page. It's in the top part. It's on page 11.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So this is our estimated breakdown of what we anticipate those funds to be. This might vary slightly once we have the GIW, but essentially, like these are the amounts you have to work with for those categories.
Yep. And again, this is page 11 before the application starts. And this is their half of this is their 5% of admin costs, right, Stephanie?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, that is the percentage of admin costs that you receive.
Okay. Perfect.
And that is your required match.
Yes,
the
the
agency.
required match, it is large because it's almost a $500,000 grant. So the required match is 117,000.
And CAF provides a match for the portion of funds that we receive from this. So you're not providing a match for anything other than your pieces.
So in addition, this is Vanessa Sweet. In addition to the required match, is this a reimbursable?
It is reimbursable, yes. So you will have to submit invoices to our agency, and then we will draw down from HUD and then reimburse you.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
We have frequently asked questions on page 12, so that's good information. And I'm just going to go back to the end of the application where we were. So again, Stephanie shared that page 11 has our total amount of support services. You can only request that 400,000 amount. Can't remember the exact number off the top of my head. And same with HMIS, it is also budgeted. You can request that amount on page 11. I'll linger here for a second. So equipment, we know that each individual that will be working within this program needs their own HMIS login, so they'll need their own, and that's $875 per person. These are some local assurances. Make sure you read these over. We did add some. Some of them are more standard, I would say like around, having a board of directors that approves the submission of the application and, you agree to schedule it to allowing us to do monitoring visits. This is really important, and it will be a part of our scoring criteria, which I'll go over in a second. But we're looking for agencies that agree to, in legible PDF format, share their financial documentation and meet our 15th of the month deadline. We need to make sure that the agency agrees and adheres to HUD required documentation and policies, including those listed. And like we mentioned throughout the application, just agrees to regular check-in meetings with us, applying feedback from us, from the YAB, from community partners. This is the signature page on page 34. And then page 35 is just the required documents that need to be attached to the application. Any questions before I go to the scoring document? Cool. Here I am. Okay, so going to our website again, you can find the scoring tool template, which I've pulled up here. These are just expectations that these are again regurgitated from the application. You have the live give profile, you're in Memphis and Shelby County and serve that area, that you are within the COC and meet all requirements for the YHDP NOFO. That you participate in HMIS, which is our homeless monitoring information system, that you agree to participate in coordinated entry, which is our process for enrolling the most vulnerable members of our community into housing programs. We're also looking that you're in existence over a year, that you serve youth, and that you are an active member of the CQI committees, which we haven't had running for a little bit, but we'll get started again, as well as the Youth Action Board. And then we need to commit to equal access, fair housing, youth engagement, and make sure that your agency is a paid member of the consortium. If you have any questions about that, we can stay on after and be happy to answer questions about that. Vanessa, I see you came off mute.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, did you have a question?
No, not at this time.
Oh, darn, I was trying to be proactive. Okay, let's go into it. So, um, the section that the first section of the application is just your agency information, right? So really we're going into it's section 2 in the application, but it's the agency experience and capacity. So for new applicants, we're asking, do they have the organizational and fiscal capacity to deliver services? Do they have experience in delivering housing services, especially for youth? And do they have a compelling argument as to why they're the appropriate entity to receive the funding? So here's our scores. Obviously, or in A, if you are an agency who's currently receiving funding, then you would receive an NA for section 1A. And vice versa, if you're a new agency, you would receive an NA for section 1B. Section 1B is similar, asking about the capacity to deliver services, but it's asking for a thoughtful, well, it's scoring based off a thoughtful assessment of program successes and challenges and how the program plans to work around those or improve those. And then community and participant feedback. A clear plan for deepening program impact rather than just maintaining current services, and identifying any resources that may need to enhance your effectiveness. And lastly, a compelling argument for why you're the entity to receive the funding. You notice that we gave the same number of points for questions that were the same across, just to make it equitable. We wanted to make sure that new and existing agencies both were judged on the same scoring criteria. The project design, we ask about outreach and referral workflows, the supportive services. So these pretty much, y'all, they align with the questions. So you can tell if you read through the sections, you can tell that some questions might be worth more points. That might help you determine like how much emphasis to put into a section. So in project design, each question is worth 5, but it is worth a large amount of points, asking basically how you plan to design your program, how you plan to commit to trauma-informed approaches, and how you plan to work with youth that may have barriers to receiving these services. So that's 35 points. So to go back, 20 points for capacity and experience. 35 points for your approach and overview in your design. And then the majority of points are here in the project design. We're looking for a design that appropriately reflects the services and participant populations. We're looking for a detailed description of the staffing, ensuring appropriate support. So if we see that you only have one navigator and one and a part-time supervisor, we might be skeptical as to how you'll ensure that you can meet the needs of the whole community. Again, all these questions that are already questions within the YAB question is worth 10 points because we are really committed to making sure that youth are involved in the implementation of the project. And the last section is about the budget. The budget section is rather small. However, there is a section about current navigation recipients. We're asking if the agency has a history of providing CAFTH with timely financial documentation, including but not limited to vouchers and timesheets, invoices, admin expenses, and meeting our invoice submission deadline of the 15th of the month, unless it's otherwise agreed upon that it's a later date. This question is the only question within the, or this, I guess this line item, I should say, is the only one within the scoring criteria that is not ranked by the rank and review committee. This question is actually, points will be awarded by the financial department at CAFT. However, they will be de-identified just as any of them would in the rank and review. And that would be NA if you're not a current recipient. We would just judge your ability to offer these services. And that's it. All of this is here on this website. I've gone over a lot. Our next timeline is to submit the application. But I don't want y'all to feel like this is the only support you get. I stopped sharing. Hopefully you can see me. I'm a great point of contact. My email is in that RFP document. Stephanie's email is there as well. She's my supervisor and knows probably most of you very well. And yeah, my whole youth team is here. If you have any questions, we're here for you. If you want to collaborate with the YAB as you're thinking through this, you can contact Kira or Vicky. However, we will also have brief interviews with the YAB asking about your involvement or your planned involvement with the YAB in delivering this project. So that's it.
Can I just add really quick? I highly recommend that you ask for the YAB's involvement when you're developing your program, especially if you're a new agency who's never done this before, because getting their input is a significant part of this. So highly recommend doing that, even just to understand the process and understand the consortium, talk to the YAB, reach out and connect with them.
Thank you for that, Stephanie. I'm very new to the program, just heard about it recently, and would like to connect with the YAB. I do see Kira just put her information in the chat. Thank you for that. And then I wanted to ask something about becoming a member of something. Haley had mentioned that, so how do we go about the membership?
Yeah, you're talking about the membership for our consortium. So if you go to our CAFT website, I'm just trying to find it.
I'm gonna drop the chat,
Thank you.
drop link in the chat. Yeah.
Okay. So sharing my screen. If you go to our CAFT website and you click who we are, get involved, you can check out our Memphis and Shelby County Homeless Consortium, and you can apply to become a member by clicking this link. And then we'll reach out to you after you fill out this interest form about being a member. You can also just probably email us, but this is the preferred way, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we would just direct you back to this link. So.
Okay, we would. Okay. And Steph just dropped that in the chat. Any further questions? I can also stop recording and you can ask questions. Okay.